I've been working on my introduction of myself longer than you have, so I can understand, and I'm very grateful. It's so good to be here. I have with me Michael Darner Esquire, one of the really brilliant young lawyers on my staff. Please stand up, Mr. Darman. Okay, sit down. And then I have that we had to do it. You're right. He could have and should have been removed from office. But do you know that might have changed the outcome of the election on November 4th? And a lot of the people arguing with me said, well, so what? You got a duty. You got to do this. You know he's committed acts that would make him eligible for removal. And then I drew up a list of all the other people who might be eligible for the same thing. And I could get it on inside of one 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, but it's a long list. Wouldn't you want to impeach the vice president before you impeach the president? And wouldn't you want to impeach Karl Rove in front of all of them? I mean, and he's still working at this. He's still doing political things right now, even though he's supposed to be a neutral broadcaster and all that business. He's working with these folks that are trying to turn back the clock. And so I just wanted you to know we're doing an imperial study of the presidency, which examines all, I mean, this thing is even longer. We thought we knew most of them. I mean, how you turn a Department of Justice into a political Department of Justice, where interns are scrutinized for whether they've been to the Young Democrats or have they marched in any protests. How do they feel about the war? I mean, it got down to, not to mention the lawyers that they picked, who they didn't like if they didn't prosecute enough Democrats. It was an unheard of violation of what the Department of Justice ought to represent. Thank goodness Eric Holder, who I know I can recommend to you, and I think we're going to work very well together. Number one, here's the 6. The people in the organizations, those are the ones that are supposed to recognize. I wanted to add somewhere the ones that weren't on my list. Of course, Planned Parenthood, obviously, they're our hosts. Let's give them a round of applause. Let's give them a round of applause. Women's organizations are here. Labor organizations are here. Civil rights activists, scholars of all rank from all over are here. And then I just wanted to add a couple of my own that I don't know if they're here or not. What about the Progressive Democrats of America? Anybody ever hear of that group? Okay, some hands went up. Yay, PDA, Tim Carpenter. What about Physicians for a National Health Plan, PNHP, Clinton Young, and all those doctors, over 13,000 doctors that are working with us on health care. And there were some more organizations, but Roman numeral number 2, the occasion. The challenge is, how do we get a Declaration of Human Rights? You know, most people have never heard of that. How do we get it active, and how do we introduce it into the political mainstream so we can make it real. And it's quite interesting, the challenges, and the prospects. Well, that's Roman numeral number 3. What are we up against here? You know, everybody has worked so hard, the longest election I can remember, and then somebody like me comes up and says, well, now the work is get through celebrating and get some more parties in and get thrilled some more time, but now we're going to have to get to work. And this administration has dug the biggest hole that any president has ever been left in the 20th century. I mean, it's deep and it's wide and it's going to get worse before it gets better. I'm trying to keep track of all the people that are going to get really ticked off with President Obama. He said, and look at this. And so we have a database in our system. We'll be keeping track of when people finally had it with Obama and that they're mad at him because of one thing or the other. And it'll probably get quite sizable. Now, what do I mean by that? Does that mean that we go along? No. What it means is that as the liberals, the progressives, the advanced wing of American activity, especially on this event of the 60th anniversary, it means that we now have to become the ones that advance the progressive agenda, notwithstanding what the president is doing. And we won't always agree. That doesn't mean that he's deceived us or that we're through with him. It's the kind of tension that always occurs. We have to be to Barack Obama that Frederick Douglass was to Abraham Lincoln. On the progressive agenda before there was a Barack Obama, and you'd be working on it after Barack Obama. And we have to realize that in the campaign we followed him. He was our leader. Now that he's elected, we the people, to make this democracy mean anything, we've got to tell him what we want. It isn't a matter of us reading, seeing, or listening to the paper or CNN and finding out what the president, all the things so out, but I'm with it anyway. No, we've got to be the ones that challenge him to the full power of his presidency. And it's in that mood and in that spirit that I join you today. Number 4, foremost, the economic crisis, the bailout. And Nancy Pelosi has a nicer word for that. So bailout sounds, that has a negative connotation. It fixed the rescue package. How's that? Same thing. The stimulus. Oh, that's okay. That's all right. And then you have my favorite knucklehead industrialist, the auto industry. Believe me, I know them. And well, we can build models bigger each year that use more gas because we can shape consumer tastes. We can make them buy this thing. And even when they had stockyards full of big cars they couldn't sell, they were still making them. I mean, and they get millions of dollars paid for not even being awake. It looks like a assistant could come to him and say, "Hey, Chief, they aren't selling. We're losing money." As a matter of fact, as one auto exec said, "We're 6 months from being bankrupt." Then you say, "Well, let's go into bankruptcy then." "Oh, no, that would turn down consumer appetites for cars. They wouldn't want to buy a car from a bankrupt company. So let's turn to the government. I mean, what are they there for? Let's get them to not only give us $25 billion, but let's get 34 billion more while we're at it." And you listen to the kind of testimony that went on the first time. I didn't see it the other day. I was campaigning for Paul Conyers in Louisiana for a congressional seat. And I was campaigning in Georgia against that senator. He didn't even want to talk to Obama. He said, "We don't, here Georgia needs money worse than Connecticut, and they don't want to deal with the incoming president of the United States." So, the only reason to keep these guys in their companies in business, I think all of them should resign as a condition of getting any more money from us. Don't you think that's good? They're all ridiculously rich already, so it's not like you're going to be hurting them or something, but they'll just be taken away from the decision-making power. And then I'd like to take Rod Gettelfinger, the president of UAW, and make him the overseer of any money that they get so that we can have an accounting for it. I voted against the first bailout, and they don't even know what AIG did with it, and they're slated to get $1.3 trillion, and we don't know what they did with the first $250 billion. It's obscene. And our kids will be paying for this, by the way. Sure, they're printing money, but somebody's going to have to pay it later. And so, and why couldn't we put in a condition that they stop sending factories overseas and keep them in the United States of America? Is that complicated? And while we're at it, on terms of healthcare, has anybody looked at universal healthcare as is practiced in every industrial country on the planet except this one? Now, guess what? The same big three that look at me blankly when I mention universal single-payer healthcare are the same ones that 6 minutes through the tunnel from Detroit to Windsor, they're building the same cars, the same companies, and guess what? The workers have universal health care. And they're still playing dumb about the need and necessity. The importance of relief. I'm figuring out for them how they can save money, and they're resisting it. Maybe I should apply for one of those jobs. Well, I'm going to get promoted too. I mean, Obama's got, I forgot how many thousands of positions he has to fill. And if I stay in government, though, I would stay right here where I am. Because we need to improve our system. And as I looked at the kinds of organizations that come together, you've inspired me to suggest that we ought to do this in Washington, D.C. with other states that have organizations that have come together just like yours. Wouldn't that be a great idea?